What is going on, everyone? Sorry I couldn't be there with you today. My mom has a pretty serious doctor's appointment that I want to be there with her for. So you got me on video, and hopefully a cool sub, and hopefully you're good to them too. All right, so it's a little cold in my house, and heating oil is a little expensive. So I just got home too, but I'm wearing a jacket, and then I'll probably bundle up with a blanket after this. Not that you care, right? Let's just get to reading. So we'll get to reading. We'll read for about 15 minutes. And then after, I'll introduce what the essay is going to look like for next week. So if anybody wants to get a head start, so it's kind of like two things in one. Let's do it. Before we do that, we're not there. I'm not there to have a good conversation. But if you remember, we stopped at like an awkward point. We'd just been reading for a while. So it was like, all right, here's a place to stop. And they were all working in the food truck. Even Sawyer, the enemy was there working in the food truck. It was hot, but they were getting things done, and they were having that language between themselves that only if you work in a kitchen for a little while you would know. So when that was done, they weren't really any closer to figuring out when that school shooting is going to happen, where that school. I mean, they know where, like the University of Chicago, but they don't know which building exactly. And then we also had the Rowan problem of getting her out the door and to New York. We'll cover all that stuff right here. So after the yellow is where we start. And that's so easy to predict in Chicago in spring, Trey says. He hands off another order. Nice, too, that the campus is just around the corner from our house. His sarcasm is evident. So sarcasm, everything he says is like the opposite. It takes quite a while to get to the University of Chicago. And now that it's springtime and things are blooming, it's like you really can't tell one day from the other. But we're going on spring break, so that's easier. But we have jobs. Some of us do, pipes Rowan from outside the window. Top of the next column. This is more important, I say. Your face, Rowan says. Shut it, I say. Inappropriate at this time. I love you all, Sawyer says. Well, let's just get through this before you go spouting off with your over-emotional diatribe. Trey says, geesh, you're even scaring the gays. Of course, remember, Trey is gay. I don't think you understand, Sawyer says, scooping up his diced onion and putting them into the onion bin. At my place, it's a bunch of old ladies, parents, my older brothers who are almost never there, and me and my cousin Kate. She's cool, but she's in college, so she only works a couple shifts a week. I frown, glancing at Trey, who looks horrified. That sounds awful, he says. It is. Trust me. And then you also get punched in the face. There's an awkward pause. Sawyer tries to blow it off. Yeah, just one of the many perks of the job. I shoot Trey a warning glance, but he chooses not to see it. Top of the next column. He says, once this whole thing is over, we're going to talk about that. He looks at his ticket. One salad, one balls minus cheese, one heart attack. He calls out, come on, step it up back there. That must be some of the names of the items in the food truck, right? One balls minus cheese, so probably meatballs. One heart attack. What could that be? Maybe a hamburger or something? I don't know. And there's something comforting about Trey being there, knowing he'll be with us tomorrow and the rest of the week too. Once we get Rowan out the door, we're home free. Now, I did highlight that in orange since we're not together to talk about that. Just seemed almost like a little bit of foreshadowing, like something might happen to Trey. Something to keep in mind. Next chapter, was it 35? No, 34. My parents are strangely silent about my being gone all day, probably due to Rowan handing over gobs of money and telling them how I went out to save them when they were blown away. Again, they use the blown away thing. Probably not the best choice of words when people are possibly going to get shot. My mother thanks me for helping out, and I respond kindly, coolly, and that's the end of that. Sawyer and I talk on the phone until he falls asleep, top of the next column. I toss and turn all night, and so does Rowan, making me think she's actually nervous about flying for the first time, all alone. Sunday morning dawns, and I hear my mother moving around the apartment getting ready for Mass. Rowan has already begged off Mass after the long, arduous day on the food truck, and Mom said she could skip today, which was the plan all along. Rowan goes through her duffel bag for the millionth time. By 8:30, I think I hear Dad moving down the hall, but when Mom leaves, I strain to hear Dad's footsteps on the stairs too, and I don't hear them. Rowan looks at me and mouths a cuss word. I sit up and shrug, hearing his door close again. Nah, no worries. It's not like he's going to notice us. So, what did that sound like? It sounded like the mom went to church and he stayed home. So, probably not having a great day. Something tells me his day is about to get a lot worse when he realizes his youngest child is going off to New York with her boyfriend, unbeknownst to him. Once we're ready, Rowan gets her bag and we sneak out to the pizza delivery car. I have directions printed out, and Rowan goes through her purse nervously. So, this also makes me think, as we've been saying, directions printed out 2010, 2012. I don't know when Google Maps was invented, the app. I don't know when that came into being, but something tells me they don't have just some kind of navigation on their phone. I'm sure somebody can look that up. Google Maps, Apple Maps, both work. I think Apple's better than Google. Yeah, for me at least. But she had to print out the directions. Oh, actually, she doesn't have a phone, so maybe that's part of it. Maybe, but Rowan does. And Rowan goes through her purse nervously. Photo ID, ticket, toiletries. She mutters. She tells me her airline, and we head out to the glorious world of O'Hare Airport, a slithering ant farm of a place where the really seasoned drivers choke and get lost. Top of the next column. So that is metaphor. I should probably just point that out. A slithering ant farm of a place. She's not saying it's like an ant farm of a place. It is. So that's a metaphor. Top of the next column. After missing the correct terminal, almost getting plowed over by a bus, and more swearing by the innocent 15-year-old I once knew, we finally find the right place. And I do what everybody else seems to do: park any old where I feel like it. She puts her hand on the door handle and looks at me. Thanks, she says. I smile. Have a blast, okay? And if it's not what you expect, call me. I'll come get you. She laughs. You have a few other things on your mind. Tell the next column. You're my number one, I say, and then I have to punch her in the arm before things get mushy. You know what signs to look for inside? Yeah, don't do anything stupid. You either. I pinch her knee, which she hates, and then she's opening her door, slipping out, and she's gone. A second later, I roll down the passenger window and yell out, Call me when you get there. She looks over her shoulder and smiles. I will, she says. She lifts her hand in a wave, and she looks so damn excited. Makes me cry. Top of the next column. On the way home, I can't get my stomach to settle down. I know our parents are going to freak, and if they found out I drove Rowan to the airport, they'll probably have me arrested or something. I wouldn't put it past them. My dad, anyway. And you know what? I'm trying really freaking hard not to care. Before I head back inside the house, I call Sawyer to discuss the plan for the day, which is to get the hell out of here before my parents figure out Rowan is gone. Inside, I can hear the TV, which means Dad is out of his room and hopefully getting ready to open the restaurant rather than sit in the blue TV haze all day with the shades down. They're going to need him down there without Ro and Trey. I feel a twinge in my gut, but I have to ignore it. Today is not the day for that. I slip past the living room and knock lightly on Trey's door. So that twinge is probably a little bit of guilt, right? She's probably like, oh, my parents could really use me down there. But I mean, she's got bigger problems too. Yeah. A little bit of guilt. So hopefully she can put that in the back of her mind. He opens it and lets me in, closing it behind me. You ready? I whisper. Mom will be home any minute. Trey sighs. Yeah, about that, he says. I think I need to stay here for the afternoon at least. You're pretty sure this thing is happening in the evening, right? I nod. I'll meet you guys out there before dark. Top of the next column. I just think I should be here for when they find out about Rowan, so they don't call the cops. I sit down on his bed and rub my temples. He's right, of course. And he's the best one to handle them. Yeah, okay. I say, if anything crazy happens, call me. I'll be there as fast as I can. Okay. I say again, on an impulse, I reach out and hug him around the neck. My cast clunks against his head. Ouch. When are you getting that stupid thing off? I ask, laughing. Friday morning, if we all live that long. Oh yeah, I thought she couldn't drive because of the cast. Well, maybe she had a sling and stuff. It's getting better, but I had forgotten that she has a cast. And we have multiple opportunities to die, Trey says. Death by exploding heads. I mean, Dad, not the other. He cringes. That was bad. I know. Sorry. So, death by exploding heads. It means just like somebody is so mad their head explodes. But of course, when they're talking about shooting, that's not great to talk about. I rap on his chest with my knuckles. We'll be in the quad. I'll call you if anything changes. His lips press into a wry smile. Be careful, he says. It's not worth dying for, okay? I nod, and I know. Call the police as soon as we have an idea of what's happening and when and where. Top of the next column. I open Trey's door and almost run into my dad. Oh, sorry. He startles too and hits one of the stacks of Christmas tins. Finally, after years of waiting, they come crashing down, making way more noise than something so lightweight should make. I stoop down and help pick them up, putting them back on the precarious pile as best I can with my dad blocking the hallway. Precarious, it means like it's almost falling down or it's like really close to being dangerous. I hand the last one to him, not quite looking him in the eye. Thank you, he says. I nod and back into Trey's doorway again so he can get past me. Well, that was cordial, right? And thank you for helping your brother and sister yesterday, he says gruffly. Mom will add those hours to your final paycheck. That's fine. He doesn't ask me if I want my job back, and I'm too proud to ask for it. Scary how much like him I am. All right, and that is probably a good place for us to stop. But there have been, over the last couple books, a couple things, and I think she mentioned it yesterday, a couple things pointing to how she and he are very much alike. So maybe he does see visions. Okay. Let's talk about the essay. Okay. Like I said, I should have at least a sample essay for you that I am going to write about a different genocide we have not covered. So far, we have covered 4 and like a half, I think. So we do still need to talk about Cambodia a little bit, but the ones that I think we have so far, let me pull it up here. Why is this not working? There it is. So I think we started with Rwanda, right? We're talking about Cambodia now. We still have to read an article on that. So if you do pick Cambodia, that one might be a little bit harder just because we haven't done all the research already for it. Or we have Armenia and we have the Holodomor, I believe it is. Man, I looked that up with the pronunciation. I'm not sure that's right. Holodomor is how you say it. In Ukraine, remember that was the starvation that Stalin did. We're not talking about what's going on in Ukraine now. Time has to tell if that's actually a genocide, but it might not fit the definition of a genocide. But we've also talked about Srebrenica. If you remember, that was in the Balkans, former Yugoslavia. Okay, so there are five right there. Now, anytime that you are writing one of these 5 paragraph essays, I think you need to take a look and try to answer these questions. Some are going to be easier to answer than others, but you have the who, so who was involved. You have the what was going on at the time. We'll talk more about these in a minute. Where did it take place? When did it happen? How did it occur? And the most important is why. Okay, why? So this can happen all in your introduction, but you probably want to give the reader a good idea of where this country is located. Maybe like some countries that it borders. If there are any other countries involved in the genocide, like when we have the Armenian genocide and the Ottoman Empire, like you might want to just give that a little bit of context. That might also come in with the when, but where. Now, this does not have to have its own paragraph. I suggest that it actually starts in your intro. You might also want to describe like what is genocide. Whenever you're writing an essay, assume that the reader is just not very intelligent, not very informed on your subject. So even though I'm like your main audience for this, like just pretend I don't know what genocide is. So in that intro, you're going to want to at least have some kind of definition, preferably in your own words, what that is. So when did it occur would be another one. How is it done? We definitely don't have to get too graphic, but if you're talking about something like the Armenian genocide, again, like you could talk about the forced marches. People were forced to march, and if they fell down, like not enough food, water, that kind of stuff. But here's the big one, right? Why did this occur? And you can use any number of sources. You can use the articles we read in class. You can go back and look at your Google forms for evidence. You can use Wikipedia. In high school, they're going to be more like selective. Obviously, the internet is full of just horrible information, like just wrong information. But in this essay, I just want you to practice writing, taking notes. We'll talk more about taking notes on Friday or Monday. But for the rest of the class, what I would like you to do is think about this essay, try to nail down like which one you want to focus on, and then maybe look for some sources, take some notes, that kind of stuff. Remember, you're going to be writing that 5 paragraph essay. So your introduction and your conclusion are kind of separate. What you want to do is figure out a way to organize your essay. My personal opinion, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be doing it in time order. Okay. So the first paragraph of my body is going to be how it started. What were some of the conditions that caused this to happen? My third paragraph of the body, sorry, my second paragraph of the body, third overall, is going to be exactly what happened during the genocide. And then my third paragraph of the body will be the aftermath. Like, how did it get fixed? How did it stop? Things like that. So I'm going to have another video later on about how you should organize this. I'm going to have another video also about taking notes, like what are some important pieces of evidence and what are some not so important pieces of evidence when you are researching. But I think that's about it for now. So that's about 20 minutes, 20 minutes of everything. So you should have maybe like 25 minutes to get study guide 11 and 12 done. Most people have done that. You got quiz number 11 to do. You have the Armenian genocide Google form. I mean, lots to do. Also, Mr. Ben's project. Obviously, I'm not going to be there to help edit, but take a look at that. All right. I will see you Friday. Please don't give the substitute any trouble.